Good morning, grade 10. Arrange your chairs properly and pick up the trashes under your chairs. Can someone lead the invocation? Please settle down now. So now, can someone give me a short review on our discussion last meeting? Great! I'm glad you still recalled last meeting's activities and discussion. Before we proceed to our lesson this morning, I want to show you some pictures. Do you know who this is? Very good. This is the character or the protagonist of the short story entitled Cinderella. What about this? Right. France has beautiful buildings, right? Then what about this? Great! This shows emotions of a man. Next, what do you think about this? Brilliant! Did you know that doves are more than just birds? Doves also symbolize peace and tranquility. Lastly, what kind of story is this? Very good! Rapunzel is indeed a fairy tale story. I presume all of you already knew and read some fairy tale stories, right? Even horror stories, science fictions, and other genres. Great! Now, I want you to count off and group yourselves into 5. In this activity, you would pick a certain story that you have read and you would discuss among yourselves all the events in the story. Through a graphic organizer, you will identify the characters, the setting, the plot, the conflict, the theme, and the symbolisms used in the story you have picked. Try to recall all that happened in the story and write it in your graphic organizer. You have 15 minutes to prepare and 5 minutes to present, and your time starts now. Well done, everyone! What you have written and presented in your graphic organizers is our lesson for today. The characters, settings, and plots that you identified are all parts of the elements of a story. Now we will start to discuss the complete elements of a story. First, when we read stories or novels, we have this habit of imagining where and when is a story set. In your graphic organizers, you identified various places and time, and that is what we call the setting. Setting represents both the physical location and also the time if it happened in the past, present, or future, and the social and cultural conditions in which the characters exist. In your graphic organizers, you identified also different characters that play certain roles in the story you chose. Characters can either be a person or animal, or really anything personified. There can be one main character or many, and often there are secondary characters, but not always. There are 2 kinds of characters, the flat and round character. Flat characters are those who stay the same or do not change until the end of the story, while round characters gradually change their personalities until the end of the story. We also have what we call the protagonists, who play the role of good characters, and the antagonists, who play the evil ones. The third one is what we call the plot. As you can observe, you identify the events in the story chronologically. A plot consists of the events that happen in the story. In a plot, you typically find an introduction or exposition, a rising action, a climax, the falling action, and a resolution. Plot is often represented as an arc. Of course, every story must have a conflict. For example, it is a challenge or problem around which the plot is based. It's good that you also identify the conflict or problem in the plot in your graphic organizers. Without conflict, the story will have no purpose or trajectory, the story would be lifeless because there is no turning point of events. The next element is the theme. It consists of ideals, beliefs, morals, or insights. It is the central argument that the author is trying to make the reader understand. The theme is the why of the story. Very good. You identified the different themes on the story you chose. The next is the point of view. Point of view is who is telling or narrating the story. Some point of views are the first person or the IPOV. This happens when the main character narrates his or her own story. The next one is the third person POV or the he or she or it POV. This happens when another person is narrating someone's story. Another one is the limited POV or one character's perspective. The story is narrated by only one character's perspective. Another one is the multiple point of views, many characters' perspectives. We also have the omniscient point of view, or the all-knowing narrator. This narrator knows all the actions and feelings of the characters in the story. Then lastly, we have the second person or the you POV. It is not used often for writing stories, but other authors use it somehow. Now let's move on to the next element of the story, which is the tone. It is the overall emotional tone or meaning of the story. Is it happy, funny, sad, depressed? Tone can be portrayed in multiple ways, through word and grammar choices, choice of theme, imagery and description, symbolism, and the sounds of words in combination. For example, rhyme, rhythm, and musicality. Remember the man who shows extreme emotions? It is connected in the tone. The last element of the story that we would discuss today is the style. This is how things are written or presented in the story. Style consists of word choices, sentence structures, dialogue, and figures of speech. Some figures of speech include simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration, oxymoron, and onomatopoeia that are commonly used in stories or proses. Style contributes significantly to tone, or they are interconnected or related. Did you understand the discussion very well? Very good. Now, I will distribute a short prose written by a Filipino author. What you will do now is you would create a story map. For 10 minutes, I want you to read the story in silence and identify all the elements of the story. The characters, setting, plot, conflict, points of view, theme, style, and tone. You would draw an arc and that would serve as your story map and write all the necessary details. What you will only write is just the necessary parts of the elements. No need to copy all the sentences in the story. You can also write or summarize it in your own words. Write your answers in a whole sheet of paper, and you have 20 minutes to do that. For your assessment on this lesson, in a group of 4 members, you will create your original short story of any genre that you like that contains the elements of a story. Your story should be written in a storybook style. No need to use fancy designs. Recycled materials would be more appreciated. You can include illustrations and drawings if you like to emphasize more your original story. Your story may either be written or printed. Your storybook will be assessed with the scoring rubrics that I will provide later. For your assignment, I want you to identify the elements of the story of Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado. So the same with our activity a while ago, you would also create a story map. I hope you have learned something for today, class. Goodbye and see you next meeting.